Welcome into another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside Mike Cameron. Got another great show for you today, breaking down all things San Diego Padres, MLB as a whole. Mike, Padres and Mariners, first round of the Vedder Cup goes to Seattle. The Mariners swept the Padres this past weekend, holding the Padres to 3 runs the entire series, one
Yeah,
run in each game. What stood out to
yeah.
you about this most recent series?
It just seems like the pitching, the starters were going deep against the Padres, which, Padres kind of limited starters from going so deep against them. But in this series right here, it seems like Seattle definitely, um, with Emerson and my young kid Evans, and then you had Wu yesterday,
Yeah.
who's starting to do front line type of stuff. I think he was slated maybe three or four, maybe four at the beginning of the season, but as guys have went down and Kirby and George's went down, and we got the Cowboy going down, so Wu's stepped up, man, and actually made it really, really interesting as what he does. He's been consistent
Yeah.
throughout his career. I think he's had like maybe one clunker or something like that. The biggest thing that they don't walk guys. I
Yep.
mean, they make you swing the bat. So that's been a big thing. And obviously we know the Padres, they definitely swing the bat. They don't really swing and miss a whole lot. But in this series, they got caught up a little bit, out the zone a lot more than what they're customarily used to doing.
No question. And we know the Mariners have a great pitching staff, but as you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's not the normal guys you expect in the sense that George Kirby's on the IL, Logan Gilbert is
Yeah.
on the IL, Bryce Miller is on the IL, and Luis Castillo did not pitch this series. So, really, from the
Yeah.
Padres' perspective, there was actually an opportunity here in that Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock are midseason call up types. And again, both talented. Logan Evans was someone I covered a lot as a prospect. He's someone the
Yeah.
Mariners felt like was a steal when they drafted him on the second day, or really the third day, actually, a few years ago. Emerson Hancock, again, solid swingman. And Brian Wu, as you mentioned, is one of the best young pitchers in baseball right now. I always say Reese Olson is the best pitcher no one's heard of, but that's because I think more people have heard of
Yeah.
Brian Wu. If you
Yeah.
haven't, Brian Wu is the best pitcher you haven't heard of. So the Sunday game
Yeah.
from the Padres perspective, look, you're facing a frontline young guy that's going to happen, but there was a little bit of a missed opportunity the first 2 games facing Logan Evans, facing Emerson Hancock. The Mariners had lost 5 of 6 coming in. The Padres had won 10 of 14. Everything was lined up in the Padres' favor. And look, the Mariners just got the job done. The biggest thing we saw is the Padres really, really, really struggled with runners in scoring position. The Padres were 0 for 21 with runners in scoring
Yeah.
position this series. And it wasn't a case here where they weren't getting any traction, right? They were getting some
Yeah.
hits, 7 hits,
Yeah.
8 hits, 8 hits, drawing some walks. But baseball's a situational game. And in those big, big moments where the pitcher had to make a big pitch or the hitter had to come up with a big hit, the Mariners pitchers consistently won that battle. As you mentioned, we saw them get some chase from some guys we don't normally see chase on the Padres. And look,
Yeah.
it wasn't the best outcome, but I do think a lot of it is just tip your cap. The Mariners executed in big spots, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, I look back at it and once you start talking about the runners in scoring position, like the Mariners didn't do a whole lot of damage with runners in scoring position either. But they did get the big homers. They got the big homers with some walks. I think they walked a little bit more in the series than the Padres did, and so with those opportunities, they got a chance to do some damage in that sense.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is like, I think watching that first game with Logan Evans, I think he scattered, 7 or 8 hits. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like they could string together a couple of hits here and there. And most of the time it was with 2 outs, when guys got on or whatever it may have been. But the biggest things for me, to take looking at this series that um, they absolutely shut Manning down,
Yeah.
so which is unusual, I think he hit a couple balls good, but other than that, they kind of shut him down. And and like I think one game Arise got like 3 knocks. Um, Bogarts got 3 knocks one game,
Yeah.
but they're kind of all scattered. So this was contributed to pitching, this series, and that happens. It just happens sometimes. where you run into, just kind of I won't call it a buzzsaw, per se, but guys, they ran into some good pitching right here also, and sometimes it can be luck too. You can get uh, where you hit the ball hard at people and things don't go well. So, so I mean, sometimes I didn't think they would get swept, um, but it happens, and so now you got to turn the page and get back on your horse and go back to work, man. So that's the way baseball is sometimes.
Yeah, Manny Machado, as you mentioned, was shut down. He went 0 for 11 in this series, and he came in batting 500 in May. He was on a 14-game hitting streak. It really, really made a big difference. Jackson Merrill struggled during the series as well, went 1 for 11. One
Yeah,
guy that continues to perform is Fernando Tatis Jr. We're
yeah.
going to jump into a quick segment here, sponsored by Arena Club, and talk a little more about the presumptive NL MVP. All right, Mike. So we're now a little over a quarter into the season, not quite a third of the way into the season. And we've
Yeah.
talked about this. Fernando Tatis Jr. continues to deliver for the Padres. He had a leadoff home run in Sunday's game. Again, we talked about Machado has struggled, Merrill has struggled, but Fernando Tatis Jr. has a hit in 10 of his last 11 games. He's homered in 4 of his last 8, had his first career walk-off. So even though maybe his numbers aren't as crazy as they were a few weeks ago, he's still one of the top players in Major League Baseball at this point. Do you think that right now, to this point in the season, Fernando Tatis Jr. is the National League MVP?
He's definitely one or two, he's definitely in the top three. Um, we obviously we have to um put Shohei in that mix because of the numbers he's thrown out. I think, when we talk about MVPs, we also have to look at Tatis as being right there. I'm just looking at his numbers there. He's
Yeah.
right there in the midst of all of these,
Yeah.
every situation that you can possibly come up with, so those are big. And I think that if I had to look at it, a third guy, maybe right now, it may be Lindor, you know, it because of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And you know, but one or two. I'm saying one is one and one, two. And so when you have these opportunities and matchups, when you get a chance to match up with the Dodgers, which the Padres will get a chance to, you know, Tatis is, if you look at it, because you got to throw defense in there now,
Yeah.
unless uh, Sohei runs off one of those 50-50 seasons again. I don't know if he's going to do that this year, but he seems to be on pace
Yeah.
to do something like that. But Tatis has been solid all the way across the board, just in every facet. He's been the igniter for the Pods
Yeah.
all season long. He's back in that one spot and he's taking on that role really well again. He's in homers, he's still in bags. I mean, he's got swag. He's come up he's come up in big situations. Walk off homers, setting up the ninth inning. To do different things. I mean, the guy's been everywhere, man. Like he does it all, man. And I mean, like it's Tatis. He is as advertised.
No question. It's funny. I was thinking about this because I am an awards voter. I don't know if we'll have an NL MVP vote this year. It rotates every year. We find out our assignments come August. But to this point in the season, if I had to vote right now today, I would vote Shohei Ohtani first, just given, another OPS, 1,073, 16 homers, most in the major leagues, 10 stolen bases. Once again, he's just performing on another level. He's really on another planet. But Fernando Tatis Jr., excuse me, is right there. I think that
Yeah,
it's going to come down to these two. And right now, to this point in the season, I think these are the clear-cut top two. Corbin
yeah,
Carroll, Pete Crow Armstrong, Pete Alonso, all these guys have had great years. Could throw Freddie Freeman in there, Will Smith even. I think those
yeah,
are more kind of, okay, that's who's 3 to 6, 3 to 7, 3 to 8. Kyle Schwarber in there as well. To me, it is these two. I think we are seeing them start to separate, and Tatis continues to perform, continues to come up in big moments. Again, even in losses, he's doing big things, right? We talked about Manny went 0 for this series. Jackson Merrill had a
Yeah.
rough series. Tatis had a hit every game this series. He had a leadoff homer yesterday. The Padres just weren't able to tack on. He just continued to perform at a level, again, hitting for average, hitting for power, what he's doing on the bases, what he's doing in the field, changing games with his arm. I do think that right now it's these two. I would probably lean Ohtani one right now, Tatis second, but it's close, and I think it's going to come down to them really down the wire through the end of the year, as long as they both stay healthy, which of course is the
Yeah.
big caveat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Look, I just was trying to, I guess, look at it and make a case like, okay, does Ohtani, does someone else takes votes away from Ohtani in his own lineup? Um, what value, what's the biggest value amongst each, versus each other in their lineups?
Yeah,
And so it's just gonna come down to the guys who, in between these two guys that really, as you said, the health wise and the bulk of the numbers that they continue to be able to put up
yeah,
over the course of this season. So
yeah,
it's going to be very interesting. And also interesting to see when and where will Otani show up, getting back up on the mound, also too. So
yeah.
it could be things could change very drastically if that's the case, and if he goes back into that role again. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, as you said, these two are the favorites. They've been doing this from the jump. I think those other guys are very valuable,
Yeah.
to their team. But the value in the league is like, from day one, man, Tatis and Shohei has been doing this thing from the jump. So it's going to
Yeah.
be really interesting. And with them being so close in a race,
Yeah.
no one gained any ground this weekend amongst each other.
Yep.
Probably San Francisco, they're
Yeah.
the only team that gained some ground, so they're in third place, one game back. And
Yeah.
the Padres had a chance to jump back out in front. So it's going to be just like some back and forth. And I'm pretty sure in the division, and that means Shohei and Tatis is going to be, the headlines of both of these teams that they continue to run amongst each other for this NL MVP race.
No question about it. All right, Mike, I'm glad you touched on the NL West race and how the Padres missed an opportunity
Yeah.
to gain some ground. We're going to talk about that. We have a quick word from our sponsors, then we'll jump into what the NL West standings look like.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay with this Hall of Fame app. There's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful in understanding, and if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 five-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL and you're all set.
Welcome back to Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside Mike Cameron. All right, Mike, before the break, you alluded to it that the Padres, by getting swept by the Mariners, missed an opportunity to gain some ground in the NL West race. And again, as much as it's frustrating for many people with the Padres, the organization, the players, the coaches, the fans, you understand that sweeps happen, and the Mariners are a good team. They're a first-place
Yeah.
team, and all you have to do is look up the freeway. The Angels, a last-place team, swept the
Yeah.
Dodgers, first-place team. So
Yeah.
anyone can beat anyone on any given day. But from the Padres' perspective, it is a missed opportunity because they entered the weekend one game back of the Dodgers. The Dodgers got swept, and the Padres weren't able to make up any ground. As a player, again, when you're answering questions in the media, you get asked, are you
Yeah.
looking at standings? Especially early, it's, we're just focused on ourselves. But realistically, how early in the season are players paying attention to the standings? How often were you looking at the standings and aware of what else was going on around you?
Not so much. You don't really get caught up in the looking at the standings in themselves. You kind of know where your team is at by what the performance is like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Um, you know that you can't in this division, you can't fall too far behind because you see guys that are playing well. You've seen the San Francisco Giants get out to a good start and winning some tough series against some teams that we didn't think that they would be able to do.
Yeah.
And they're right in the mix. You see the D-backs get off slow and then just get like just hot and running people down. So,
Yeah.
they're four back, but they're playing very well. So when you see those type of things, you know when teams are playing well, but you also have to understand that we can't we or me as a player, I can't
Yeah.
worry about what the Dodgers are doing. We have to
Yeah.
worry about the team that's in front of us, the team that we're playing, and what I'm able to do, and what I'm hopefully be able to contribute to a win that particular night. And I think the as you get older as a player, you understand that you know that trying not to get swept and win series is probably the biggest thing you can kind of go about
Yeah.
to put yourself in position to be either at the front of the division or right in the mix. And but you do know that you can't really have these stretches, these long stretches of where you can't play good baseball. The
Yeah.
National League is stacked this year, man. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. Um, and well, obviously the stagnance is starting out in the NL West, but you know, it's the East is got three teams in it.
Yeah.
The Central, you got a couple guys in it, but everybody's closely together. So there's no one that's pulled away from anything to do it right now. So teams still feel like they have a really good chance of doing some damage in the win column over the course of the season. But it's really important as a player to really you focus. I mean, we use this term so much. It's like you really day to day,
Yeah.
just trying to, get a victory that particular day to simplify everything so you just don't get caught up in the rumbleness. But you do watch, you're watching games, you're watching teams to play, guys do know when they say that I don't watch the scoreboard or I don't know. Bullshit. That's bull. Whatever. Everyone knows because we see it so much there. I mean, there's so much coverage on baseball now
Yeah.
and players for the media wise, you have to understand what's going on around you at all times.
No question. As we sit here today, the Dodgers, of course, are in first place at 29-18. Padres one game behind them. The Giants are also one game behind them. The Padres do have the edge winning percentage wise, but again, three teams within a game of first place in the NL West, and the D-backs are only 4 games back. They are coming off of a nice win as well. And again, they are a team that can explode offensively at any time. Right now, the NL West, 4 teams have at least 25 wins in the division.
Yeah.
The only other division in baseball that's the case is the AL Central, where, look, just to be frank, those are weaker teams, beating up on each other a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
question the NL West is the best and most balanced division. And that's where, on the one hand, it's early. You don't want to overreact to getting swept at home by anyone in May.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, you also understand that there's not a lot of margin for error just because this division is so tight. These teams are so good. And any opening you have, you kind of have to take.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just looked at the schedule and um, the Pods are going in to play against a Toronto team that can be, they have their times, I guess.
Yeah.
They're just, I think they just got beat up a little bit
Yeah.
here recently. Um, but like now I feel like that does impact, West Coast teams going east. There's a lot of factors that you got to play in. So
Yeah.
hopefully the guys get some rest and get their bearings, right after losing a couple of hours from their time zone,
Yeah.
get in that sense. But just it's an opportunity to be able to put yourself in position to have a good week. We look at the last 10 games and you look over the week, you want to have one of those weeks where you're on the positive side more than the negative side. So
Yeah.
we're going into that. I always say the quarter pole is Memorial Weekend, which is next week. So It's big to be in that race. And it just looks like this race is going to come down to no one's going to run away with it. It's going to be a July, August, September type of deal where guys are going to have consistently played good baseball over the course of time if we're talking about winning the division.
And I think it's important to note too, right? Not to overreact to anything that
Yeah,
happens too early in the season. It's an important case in point where, again, getting swept at home is certainly frustrating. Scoring 1 run per game is certainly frustrating. But let's not forget, the Padres were a 500 team. They were right at 500 a day after the All-Star break last year. So 2 months from
yeah,
now, relatively, they were a 500 team. And then they took off in the second half of the season and finished the year as one of the best teams in baseball. The Mariners last year had a 10-game lead in the American League West in
yeah,
June. So a month from now still. And by August, they were 4 games back and had fired their manager. It was a 14-game swing. So we're talking about things where teams can look one way a full month or two from now and then be
yeah,
completely different teams by the end of the year. So again, you don't want to get too high or too low based on anything that happens this early in the season. There's so much baseball left. Injuries are going to happen, trades are going to be made, guys are going to get hot, things are going to change so much between now and the end of the season. I think it's important to keep that in mind that look, frustrating series on a lot of levels, but there's a lot of baseball left, and you can't let one rough series get you down. That's not what good teams do. And frankly, that's not what I think anyone expects the Padres to do. Last time they got swept at home by the Rays, they went out and won 10 of their next 14. So it's all
yeah.
about how you bounce back.
Yeah. Another thing too, Kyle, is like um, we talk about the swing of the division and how teams or whatever it may be. The one thing that you can look at that we know uh, the Padres are going to get some veterans back that can help. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure the same can be said with the Dodgers and their pitching also. They're having
Yes.
some guys also.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be helpful in that matter. The other teams are just, with your Giants. I don't know if they have anyone out that is that significant that could flip over the roster in a sense to where you're really doing some damage in that. And I don't know I think Arizona have like a couple of pitchers maybe that are out or whatever that could definitely change the way they're going about different their roster. But we do know that for the Padres, they do have a few guys that could make a big difference. And the winning percentage, as the starting pitchers coming back that has some experience and understand that it's just a matter of now just to continue to have the consistency and health wise and playing good baseball. I mean, that's generally what it is. It's trying to play good baseball. They definitely have the players that can. They have guys on the team that can carry the team for a month, month and a half or whatever it may be. But but the biggest thing is just the consistency throughout and helping out and understanding that it's going to be a dogfight pretty much all summer.
Yeah. One thing that would be interesting to see if the Padres make an adjustment is getting back to running a little bit more. Early in the season, this was a team that was very, very aggressive on the base pass, and we're still seeing it in spurts, but on the whole, it's slowed down. So the Padres stole 23 bases in their first 15 games of the season. They've only stolen 13 bases in their last 30 games. And I think this is important because this is not a power hitting team. The Padres are tied for 22nd in the majors in home runs. And realistically, that's kind of where they should be given the ballpark, given the makeup of this lineup. This is not a power first lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. has big power. He can leave to any part of the yard. Manny
Yeah,
Machado as well. But you look at it, right? Luis Arias, contact hitter. Jake
yeah,
Cronenworth is a hit first player who has power, but he's a hit first player. Jackson
yeah,
Merrill is a hit first player who has power. Gavin Sheets, of course, has power, but he's not
yeah,
someone I think anyone expects to hit 30, 40 bombs a year. He's been more average over power this year.
yeah,
If you aren't going to have power, that's fine, but you need to make up for those extra bases somewhere. And speed is where the Padres were doing it earlier this year. Again, this is a high contact, aggressive speed
yeah,
kind of team. That's when they've been at their best this year. And we've seen them slow down a little recently. I'm going to be curious to see if they pick it back up again, The Blue Jays are not the best opponent to try that against. The Blue Jays are one of the best teams in baseball at shutting down run games. Alejandro
Yeah.
Kirk leads the American League in runners caught stealing, thrown out runners at a 30% clip. So the Blue Jays probably aren't the team to try this against, but I do think given the Padres don't have a lot of power and their team is not built for power, this is not a team that should be going out there and trying to swing for the fences. That's just not their personnel. They probably need to be running a little more than they have been.
Yeah. Also, too, some when you say those first 15 games and they had 23 bags, it may be coming from a couple of guys. I don't think Arise is a big runner. I don't think Cronenworth is a big runner. Some other guys in there. But they do what they do well is like they are aggressive in base running,
Yeah.
instead of base stealing. They're very aggressive going first and third in
Yeah.
that matter. And that's where those things show up even more so because it just allows the hitter to have a much easier quest in the at bat of not having to get a hit. When you have those situations where you have opportunity to score runs. So that kind of goes up and down because I just don't think no one in the league now is just burning like that. When they got a guy that's going to steal 50, 60 bags. You may have another guys that have, that's going to steal you 25, 30 bags. So lineups don't really have that now. But when you do have good base running teams, and that is so important when you have 5 or 6 guys that are good base runners and not are scared to use that base running. And that once again is a reflection on the manager because most guys they tell you during the season, hey, we're not worried about you got to be aggressive in this area. And then when you be aggressive, and it's like, oh, you start to kind of shy away from it. But Schultes has come from that type of background where, and I think he instills that with the team. And you can see when guys are coming out of the box, you can see how guys take their turns on when there's an opportunity for first and third. You just kind of like you could just see what they does. I think the only guy that probably not going to do that whole lot is probably Manny, unless it's for a double. I know, or he's trying to score. So, that's when you get it out of Manny. But for the most part, the bags can go up and down. It just depends on where you're at with your team and whom they're playing against, where guys can be aggressive like that. Some teams put an emphasis on shutting down some of the running game, and pitchers really try to make sure they thwart you from trying to steal bags. And then sometimes you have a good catcher back there. But hey, catcher is only a part of it. You're stealing the bags out of the pitcher. So, by them being on turf, it may help out a little bit. So you never know, but you got to get the guys out there to take that chance.
Yeah, no question. And again, the Padres are still doing some aggressive things in terms of on balls in the dirt. We saw Tatis in Pittsburgh coming home on a ball in the dirt that barely got away. Manny Machado did it against the Angels. So we are seeing some aggressiveness, but I would be curious to see if they start running more just in situations where, hey, maybe they can take a bag here, steal a bag here, get from first to second or even second to third a little more. We saw them doing that a lot earlier in the year and it slowed down. And I do think that would help them get back to being the best version of themselves offensively. All right, Mike, we've got one more quick word from our friends at Arena Club. Then I want to talk to you real quick about Juan Soto and Yankee Stadium and unhappy homecomings.
All right.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is, and right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
All right, welcome back to Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. All right, Mike, we've talked about Padres-Mariners series again. Padres with a rough series. It happens. Flush it. Move on. Heading out to Toronto for 3 games and then Atlanta for the rest of the road trip. But beyond the Padres, in Major League Baseball this weekend, the Yankees played the Mets in the Subway Series. You were a part of. You know very, very well how hotly contested those games can be, not just on the field, but in the stands. Juan Soto made his grand return to Yankee Stadium and was booed mercilessly. You could see it a little bit. The right field bleacher chatter was You could see it on his face. It was getting him a little bit. It was a lot.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that about Yankees fans booing Juan Soto, going at him hard after everything he did for them last year?
I don't care, man. They felt like he let them down, and from the words that he was speaking, obviously the player set the market. He's the guy that's really set the market. So, um, and I don't know if the money was close enough to each other. If I go back and look at contractual status, I don't know where it was, where it was just a matter. In Soto's case, I think that he wanted to have his own light in New York and not really be it's not and not really do the tandem thing with Judge, So look, Juan Soto's a great player. It's been a big change, and obviously he probably marked this on his calendar also, knowing that they were going to give him some flack out there. And I thought that he kind of handled it pretty good. I just want him to get back to the Juan Soto we saw in New York with the bravado at the plate, the shuffle, just that. He's kind of still getting acclimated to the New York Mets, and so he's still in his 800 OPS. He's still 820s right now. So he's doing some things over there with that team, and just kind of like they're in first place. But at the same time, I just want him to get back to the Soto shuffle, those type of things. And I tweeted. X tweet or whatever you call it, X tweet, whatever you want to call it. I tweeted, I was like, everybody's like, Buster Olin was like, oh, they turned their back on him. And this, I said, I don't think Juan Soto, I think he has 800 million reasons why he's not worried about it, whether they're looking at him or their back turned. It is what it is. But dude, that's New York, though. I mean, that's the Yankees, and they're gonna do what they do. It's always good. If they're booing you in Yankee Stadium, then that's a good sign. That's definitely a good sign. If you're the visitor, especially, and that means you've done some stuff over there. So, I mean, I think Juan handled it well. I want to see Juan Soto get back to the Juan Soto that we saw last year with just the Soto shuffle. He was smiling. Yeah, he was smiling a whole lot yesterday, but also taking it a little more personal. Where you go, I actually put on a show. Against the teams. And that's what he's done against some of his teams in the past. I mean, Juan Soto he was a hired gun for the last few years. And he just had to be very talented, and he's the guy that set the market, and he's in New York, and so he's going to get a chance to do it at home too. So he's going to get a lot of those things, and hopefully, I wish him the best, man. But I just want to see him get back to the Juan Soto that we're used to seeing. Even though he's not at his standard where he is offensively, but he's still getting the acclimation process in Queens opposed to in the Bronx.
Look, I think with Juan Soto, it was never, ever, ever a secret. He was going to go to whoever offered him the most money. That was clear
Yeah.
from the outset. They said that.
Yeah.
The Mets offered him $765 million. The Yankees reportedly offered him $760. He was always going to go wherever he got the most money.
Yeah.
And the Mets were the ones who offered it to him. I understand, obviously, it's a rivalry. Obviously, there's a feeling of, oh, he left us. He, jilted us for our crosstown rival. And I get that. And look, the Bronx beer is famous. You're going to get it whenever you're there. But at the same time, let's not forget, Juan Soto helped elevate the Yankees to a place they had not been since 2009. He was a huge, huge, huge part of why they were able to get over the hump and get to the World Series.
Yeah.
His home run in the ALCS to put Cleveland away is probably the biggest swing the Yankees have had since 2010. I mean, he was so, so, so crucial for that team, that franchise. And for them to not show any love or appreciation for that, it kind of bothered me a little bit. Look, he went in, he gave you everything you possibly could have asked for, and someone offered him more money. I think every single person in the stands, if a job offered them a higher salary, they'd take it in a heartbeat. Yeah. So I think for me, again, I get it. It's part of the game. You understand it's not the dynamic in New York, but I actually thought the overwhelming boost, just zero appreciation for what he did for them last year. it didn't really sit that well with me, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah, look, I think anywhere else that he's been, um, it would have been a little more of a appreciation situation, you know. But in the Bronx, they don't care, man. They don't care. They don't care none of that. All they know is like, man, you had a chance to be one of the all-time great goats here, and you turn your back against us. And and so we gonna have to show you this type of love opposed to the love that you really would want to receive. But I think as a player, as long as you understand that,
Yeah.
um, you know, it's a lot easier for you to get along with it. Look, he took it when they called his name out when they were booing. He took his helmet off like it was a standing ovation. So I'm pretty sure there's some people that appreciated Juan Soto. But
Yeah.
just in that moment against the New York Mets, you ain't getting the love that you think you're supposed to get here. Not this time. That's for sure.
What's the best or worst thing you heard at Yankee Stadium? Because again, you lived it with the Mariners in the postseason, being part of the Subway Series with the Mets. What you're in the outfield hearing it loud and clear. What was
Yeah.
your most memorable thing you heard from the Yankee Stadium crowd?
I don't even know if I can say it on here, man. They've said some stuff. When I was younger in the old Yankee Stadium, it was rough, bro. You used to get like little batteries, little AAA batteries thrown at you,
Yeah.
quarters, nickels, all kind of stuff, man.
You actually
So it
had
was
stuff thrown at you that hit you while you were playing?
Yeah, like right, like you could be chasing a fly ball, somebody throw like a AAA battery at you or something like that, or a quarter in the old Bronx,
Yeah.
old Yankee Stadium. I think this one right here is like really corporate. It ain't really as crazy as it used to be. The fans used to be like on you, on top of you in the old one. Like it was wow, man. And fortunately for me, I played in center field,
Yeah.
so there's not a whole lot of people over there. But my boys like Jay Buhner, Ichiro, uh, oh God, Ichiro, he don't even pay attention to it. I think some people enjoy it more than anything. Like it is the Bronx though,
Yeah.
because if you get caught up into the masses of going back and forth with them, eh, I mean, you're gonna lose focus on what you're trying to do. I
Yeah.
mean, and look, it is home field advantage for the Yankees there. They all one thing they do is they stick together too. Like
Yeah.
if they said we're gonna boo Juan Soto, then everybody knows that in that stadium we're booing Juan Soto, or we're booing whomever it may be.
Yeah.
The best way you can do is just try to put on the best show you can with your bat and your glove skills all the time. They go always they will look as much as they do a lot of booing and talking crazy, whatever. They respect good baseball players. They
Yeah.
understand that more than anything. So I don't really have a whole lot of things. I just decided to make sure that I enjoy the opportunity of playing in Yankee Stadium, and like you said, I got a chance to play in a couple of the crosstown, the rivalry deals,
Yeah.
and also played in 2 playoffs that got a chance to go to the World Series. So it's one of the best, man. It's still the Mecca. It's still the craziness. I think it lost a little bit of luster. I got a chance to play with that one also, but playing the Red Sox
Yep.
Yankees. That's a whole nother crazy also too. So
Yep.
I mean, I think I probably got booed a lot more with doing that one than I did with the Mets. So, uh, but it was cool though. I mean, I was kind of older, so I understood what it was. I understood what it's all about. I've been there. I've had some success in both of them, so it's always good. Always good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tatis heard it in right field a few weeks ago. Soto got it in right field this past weekend. And many, many players will hear it more and more as the season goes on. Mike, this has been a pleasure as always. Appreciate you coming on, helping break down Mariners Padres. We'll see you next week after the Padres go out and face the Blue Jays and the Braves on this current road trip.
Oh, they coming to town, so I may get
Yeah.
a chance to sneak over there and see what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. We'd love to hear from you. For Mike Cameron, I'm Kyle Glaser. Thanks for watching and listening. See you later this week.